G'day, how you going? Phil Tarrant. Friday morning property buzz coming off the back, if I sound a bit croaky, coming off the back of an awards evening last night in Sydney. Not within the realms of property and real estate and finance and politics and everything in between, but something very, very different, which was space, as in rockets and satellites and all this good stuff. And I was chatting with an astronaut that I know reasonably well down there, Australia's first astronaut, and Paul Scully Powers, and I was having a yarn with him and picked up a conversation we had some time ago, and that is around his future for space. He thinks is space-based solar, and he was telling me that this year there will be a genuine first trial of beaming solar energy from space to Australia for use down here.
Well, they have the little laser, and it's like the laser comes down, it's directed energy. It's pretty cool stuff.
Mate, it's crazy. And you sit there and you go, what's this got to do with property? And you sit there and think, if we can harness this energy out there in space, beam it, like beaming power with a laser beam.
Mate, let's see how much elbow's scrambling to get those $270 energy bill discounts.
Yeah, that'll be straight into your battery.
Straight into your Oh, yeah, I don't think... Look,
that's a smart use. That's good renewable stuff.
This is opinion, right? This is opinion. Well, it's not really opinion.
Well, welcome to Property Buzz, where we talk about property.
Welcome to Property Buzz. I ain't touching battery. Do you have batteries? I'm touching that. The amount of house fires you see from it, I am not. It's just not worth it. This is opinion. I've heard too many stories of batteries going on fire. I ain't touching it.
Yeah. So it was good. And you sit there and think, what's space got to do with this? Space, mate. Space is the future, man.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, you and I nerd out over a lot of stuff.
We do.
It's actually just not property related. Space, geopolitics, national security. We nerd out over that. But I mean, it does tie into property.
Property is about space.
Yeah.
You think about it, right? Like the pictures you view. The satellite imagery, there's a lot of space, all the geo-locating stuff, space. So anyway, I want to look more into it. But anyway, that was last night. So it's interesting. I'm quite fortunate in what I do for a living is that I get to cover a lot of ground and meet a lot of really, really interesting people. And Dr. Paul Scully Powers, Australia's first astronaut, was on. Did a space shuttle. I think Did he do a couple of space shuttle runs?
I didn't know it was more than one, to be honest.
Maybe it's one. In the 80s. So it's really, really interesting. Yeah, good guy. Anyway, Property Buzz. You'll see in the headline for today. Properties power shift. BA's out and PM's in. This is going to help shape our conversation. And BA's being buyers agents and PM's being property managers. And I've been sort of... And this is what Property Buzz is all about. This is not perfect by any means, and it's pretty organic. It just allows us to muse and develop, just develop ideas and develop our way of thinking by, live discussion, debate around the evolution of property in Australia. And we all know, the budget has been dominating discussions. I see the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, was on the television yesterday, and he's told us that he's made some changes as we expected with some of those proposed legislations, particularly around CGT with small business. He's pushed it from $2 million up to $10 million. So it means you still get your 50% capital gains discount, and they're not going to mess around with taxing 30% on those discretionary testamentary trusts. So this is like, which a lot of people, myself included, use for estate planning if your children aren't yet of adult age. And so even subsequent to that, when you cark it, your assets go into a testamentary trust, and then that's where everything lives, and whoever's in charge of it can do whatever they want.
And I want to add some colour onto this.
Which was the death tax. That's what people will claim as the death tax.
I did a fantastic podcast on this, really unpacking it, because I'm not an accountant, and I'm adjacent to property, but a lot of the very high level discussions around trust and taxation was a little bit outside of my realm of understanding. And with the trust taxation, I was speaking to an accountant who gave me an example of a widow who was in her 80s, 90s, who had a trust once I think husband passed away, and she claimed $20,000 a year from this trust. Now, with a minimum of 30% trust payments on tax, as in 30% tax, she was essentially claiming what was the tax-free threshold, but now she will forego nearly $7,000 out of that 20 a year. These people get really hurt. Or your tradie at the end of the day, he's been spending decades setting up his plumbing business, his cheapy business. Suddenly he would expect to be able to sell it for retirement without tax. Now suddenly slugged. It's just unethical. And it's things that you've spoken about in the past, Phil, which is it seems to have been done on the fly. Yeah. This seems like a good policy because you're going after rich property investors. Well, what about the other 99% of hardworking Australians that just happen to set up their business through a trust? And to your point with the 1999 tax changes, where they spent 18 months looking into it. Just done on the fly. They leaked different stories to the press every single week. It seems that they had no idea what they were doing.
Well, I think it's strategic in how they're doing it. And maybe this is a new way in which laws are going to be, evolved in the future, in that rather than going through the discipline, it's my beef of the week, and it's sort of an ongoing beef, but rather than going through the discipline of absolutely assessing something prior to introducing it, it's like now we just introduce it and see how it lands and let that consultation actually happen in public domain where everyone provides their views and opinions on it, and then you just go, okay, yeah, that's not the right thing to do, which is what they've done here.
Yeah.
Like, seismic shifts around messing around with discretionary testamentary trusts, and CGT changes on Australian small businesses. Like, you can't just do that on the fly. Like, do it properly, guys. And this is the issue. And now they just pull back and they go, yes, we've listened. So it's strategic. They're going, yes, we've listened to you, Australia, and we decided to change our position again. So, I don't know, maybe it's the modern way. People just share their views now. That's what social media does. Anyone just goes, yeah, I've got a view and opinion. And then everyone sort of writes back, gives it a love heart or a thumbs up, right? And you go, okay, well, in the balance of things, let's go this way. In the balance of things, let's go that way.
I mean, the level of division that we see, if you're a rusted on Labor person, even if Liberal brings up a really good idea, you're not going to believe in it, and vice versa. Yeah. If you're a rusted on Liberal voter and Labor does the right thing, you're not going to give credit where credit's due. And it's a very sad position we've been in. And, look no further than, to this example, look no further than the Victorian state government. It is mind-blowing. Now, I know the Libs have pulled ahead like 55-45 down there. Yeah. It is mind-blowing that nearly 1 in 2 people are going to vote for that government. And I don't mean this in the sense of like progressive versus liberal, right, or progressive versus conservative. Everyone's allowed to have their own political persuasion, and that is totally fine. But, I mean, we're talking about a government that, came out a couple of months ago when the anti-corruption commissioner came out saying, we estimate that you have funneled $15 billion into unions and corrupt organisations illegally. 15 billion, it's a big sum. This is a huge sum. You could give that in tax relief to working families. Yep. That would be nice. It would also lift the economy because they'd have more money to spend for small businesses. But it's just mind-blowing that
this is... I saw me on the TV the other day, trying to defend that position, right? And I just... Politicians rank so far down the list of professions that people trust.
Yeah.
For good reason. And by the way, journalists are
lower. As are
lawyers,
real estate selling agents.
Yeah, real estate selling agents are lower. Used car salesmen, I think, all that. They inhabit that bottom.
Yeah, that
bottom
quartile.
Right? And there's good reasons why. Is that trust is such an important thing when it comes to any type of interaction, transaction, whatever. And it's easy to distrust politicians because they're very clever in how they use words and some would say quite slippery. I don't know. Did you see, and we'll talk about this, 60 Minutes? Did you see Chalmers on 60 Minutes on Sunday night, Sunday night? And they pinned him down on this changing election promises and this, that, and the other, right? And you can see he was really starting to squirm quite a lot. He's quite a gifted guy when it comes to his ability to use words, and he's very careful in how he uses words, and he's got a great vocabulary and a great way to position stuff. But watching him sort of squirm a little bit, knowing like he's going, like he was drawing on all of his skills and capability. And look, he's a bright guy.
Yeah. What about that interview? Was it the interview with Daily Oz? That it was like that Instagram news page, very Gen Z, that Instagram Oz Daily or something.
Yeah.
And credit to the interviewer. I think she might be the editor, but credit to her because it's a pretty progressive outlet, and you'd expect like Gen Z kind of Instagram based news.
Yeah.
It's pretty progressive. She held the torch to him, and he squirmed when he's like, 1 in 10 young Australians invest in shares, and she's like, well, ASIC came out and said it's 1 in 5, and he didn't know what he was saying, And I will say this, one thing I will give the government. And I'll have a huge caveat on it. But one thing I will say to them, I do agree things change.
Yeah.
So things do change, which means that sometimes the policy you come into the last election with has to change through necessity. Yeah. So I do agree with that. Sometimes policies have to reflect the outcome of the day. But if we're talking about housing affordability, let's go to the crux of the problem. So when people blame negative gearing, capital gains tax, property prices have grown nationally 68% since Labor came into power in 2022. 68%. Take Sydney out of that, where property prices have grown, but at a very muted rate. There have been markets out there which have doubled, tripled. So let's unpack why. Is it anything to do with rampant inflation? Growth in wages across the Australian public service, jobs that actually shouldn't exist. And I mean this in a traditional kind of Keynesian sense, which is you've put liquidity in a market which should have liquidity taken from it. There is just simply more money. The volume of money being pumped in this market is, I don't have the stats on me, maybe I'll pull it up in a second, but it's doubled since 2022, which means that the total number of dollars in circulation has doubled since Labor's come into power because you're spending so much money. Does this not have something to do with it, the inflation behind it? When you sum all of these things, and 4 of the major banks have come out saying, well, actually the government is the source of most of the inflation problems, then you add in the other demand side things, the 5%, and we don't need to, you and I have rammed on about it, but 5% deposit scheme, the shared equity, the fact that you've got now 40,000 Australians out there that own half their home, the government owns the other half of the home. You're saying this is going to be inflationary? So I agree. Actually, there needs to be something done with property prices. There has to be a way for Australians to get in on it. Firstly, a lot of that's of your own doing, and to blame and to finger point to everyone else is not the way forward. Yeah. And by using this blunt lever of taxes, which you clearly thought on the fly, ain't the way to do it. It goes back down to you need to have a better mathematical basis. I don't know who the hell is in Treasury doing this, but when you're
boffins,
when you're predicting $2 a week rate rises, or the rental rises, or the first home buyer, it's going to go up 0.6%. Think of it logically. What we have done so disastrously is when we're looking at the supply-demand equation, we are seriously underbaking demand and overestimating supply. And I mean this in as much as, so everyone oversimplifies it. We need as much supply to meet our population demand through migration, which is part of it. Part of it. Yeah. You also have up to 80,000 separations a year. You also have hundreds of thousands of young Australians a year looking to leave their parents' homes and get their own homes. Because keep in mind, these kids that are coming through are just a few years after that Howard baby boom. Right, which is a few years after that Howard baby boom with the baby bonus. We've got a lot of young Australians that want to get out and own their own properties. When you actually do the correct maths about supply, you can't match it to immigration figures. You have to match the immigration figures plus several 100,000 people a year that are looking for their own homes. No, people are only looking at half the equation here. And for that reason, you have to look back and say, we have completely miscalculated the root causes of growth in property prices.
Yeah. So, a couple of points there, but just for everyone listening in, the numbers are out. Migration fell to just over 300,000 in 2025, which is the lowest level since 2022.
And you know what, Phil?
Those numbers have just arrived.
It's just, I'm sick of it because, sorry, you set me off now. I'm going to blame you. No. It was the government that set me off.
Yeah.
Because I've seen all this, and it's so coordinated. These lines are so coordinated, and I'm not even going to say the good people of Fairfax media. It's just such an obvious Fairfax bloody attack line. Oh, it's the lowest since 2022. Yes, because you had 2 years of backlogs of people entering Australia on a 2-year backlogged visa. The migration is still higher than 2019. It's almost double what it was in 2019.
Yeah.
So if we're predicting that up to 500,000 people are going to come this year, now historic average is 250,000, it's still double what it was pre-COVID. And so the government
Spin. Goes back to trust. Goes back to trust now.
You've set me off. I saw all the lines coming out from all the Fairfax papers today. All of them said the line that it's lower than 2022 because you've cherry-picked the data.
Yep.
You've cherry-picked the data, and they've done it because
Journalists don't do that. Are they on the payroll? Are they on the government's payroll?
It's because the government's running nervous.
Yeah.
When you do two-party polling and then you're neck and neck with One Nation, I mean, it says a lot about Australia. Now, I'm going to say this just very clearly that if you've got someone who is as well-spoken as Jim Chalmers, very well-spoken, he's got a PhD, the guy's clearly smart, and when you are now seen as trustworthy as Senator Hanson, it's a zeitgeist of where we are as a people, about how fractured we are as a nation.
Well, the government told us, I think, this week that I think the Prime Minister specifically telling people to be very careful where they get their news from, and you could only use reputable sources like the mainstream traditional news. And it was pretty much going, don't listen to social media people. But then you also had
Senator Hanson go out to The Guardian and say, I'll never talk to you if I'm Prime Minister, which the Libs had a field day on. They went hard on it.
Yeah.
It's
all fun and games. Now, we're doing questions and answers today. We haven't been over the last couple of weeks, just with there's quite a couple of hotheads out there and around some of the issues with the budget and the collapse of a significant buyer's agent, which I'm going to talk about today. And this is this idea that I'm developing. This is property's power shift. BA's out and PM's in. And obviously I would say PM's are really important as a humble technology salesman for property managers. So, I'll telegraph that and disclose that at the front end. But this is a theory that I've been developing for some time. But I think we've got some questions from Jacob, our producer, already.
So Luke says, off the back of what Liam was saying earlier, I think property in Australia has grown from a trend to a cultural part of life. The amount of equity, the amount of properties you own, your PPOR, monetary growth is glorified on social media. And first it was a trend of crypto and NFTs back in 2017, niche fields like Pokemon cards, every single area where you can make money that becomes a trend goes crazy in gains. But for Australians, property has gone from a trend to a culture. They'll probably never allow house prices to come down properly out of fear it'll all collapse.
I agree to a part. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree to a part. To say it started in the last 10 years, I think is a bit of a misnomer. I think people have been investing in property for years, but I would agree with it in terms of a resilience to an asset class. Australians are property crazy. Australians are property crazy. That's why, you and I could do these live streams. We could probably do these live streams every day for years, Phil, and we would still have stuff to talk about. Because
property is a national pastime. It's a national sport.
It's a national sport.
But I sort of, proposed this thought probably a couple of weeks ago, post-budget, and went, dinner party discussions or barbecue discussions ain't around property at the moment. It's around how to minimise your tax. Like that is what now people openly talk about. And I've never seen it before. People openly, all generations, openly talking about the tax regime. I've never ever seen this enlightenment or awakening of people around tax, The GFC, the GFC was tough for a lot of people, but what it did was recalibrate a lot of people to actually be a lot more conscious of and responsible for their personal finances. A lot of people were just going through life going, I don't know much about it. There's all this stuff. And a lot of people got hurt through that. So people become a lot more conscious about it and took ownership of their finances. I think what's happening as a result of this specific budget, normally a budget gets announced and there's a new cycle for a couple of days and then everyone forgets about it. We're still talking about it, right? The first time I can remember it being like that. So there is now an inherent consciousness of most people about how much money they can retain from the effort of generating it. And we know that the government's trying to balance, the money you make through labour versus the money you make through investments the same, not discounting the fact that anything you're investing, you already paid tax on, right? It's a double taxation problem. So people now are into it and they're conscious of it and they're going to be a lot more responsible for it. I was at a really big event after we did our live stream last week in accounting. We do a lot of work in and around accounting. There was a big conference in accounting and awards and stuff. Like accountants, that accounting sector, right? That is just alive and humming at the moment, and people are relying on it because of the consciousness of people now around tax. So this is what the future looks like. But send your questions in. We're happy to answer everything. But this idea, Liam, around.
Can I add one thing on that?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, just before we move off. Australians, it is a culture for us, and property. Everyone's been property mad for decades.
Yeah.
Property mad for decades. And I actually think it's in part because we are really sophisticated with it. We are really sophisticated with it. I've lived overseas. I've lived in 3 countries. Whenever, in Australia, I think it's mind-blowing that you could have the regular Australian, and I mean regular Australian, you're not some sophisticated finance bro, if we're going to go down the finance bro, talking about, I used a second-tier lender. Yes, I'm paying a higher interest rate, but the policy allowed me to get in, da-da-da-da-da. We're going to buy in a trust. And that is a level of sophistication that you do not get, in other countries about understanding finance of property, which tying that into the culture, the fact that we could have such, and I don't mean simple people, I just mean everyday people having a really sophisticated understanding of property finance means that Australians are, to the question, very culturally understanding. They know how to play the game. They know how to make money from it. So from that point, I do agree with the question in so much as, the market, and this is not financial advice, it's just a gut feeling. And a gut feeling, I'm not talking about data here, but once the market dips, you're going to have Aussies waiting in the wings.
They already are.
Yeah.
This is the core argument of the left, which is saying that property shouldn't be real estate, as in residential real estate, shouldn't be an asset class.
Okay, and can I jump in there? Because I know you're about to say something. But this has been a crusade that I've been on for a long time now. A long time. And it ties in, and I know we'll get there in a second, but it ties into the buyer's agent front.
Yeah.
Right? It ties into the buyer's agent front. So you and I have spoken in the past about finding a small regional town. You find a small regional town, you pump in a few hundred investors, obviously you're going to get an ROI. Obviously you're going to get capital gains on it. Yeah. The only reason you can do that, and I've got to pick my words very carefully here.
Channel your inner Jim Chalmers.
Just start tap dancing beneath. What do I say? No, my figures are different. If you did that in any other regulated asset class, and here's the thing, if you treated property like any other equity, like a share or a bond, you would not be able to have this level of collusion. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to do that, right? You wouldn't be able to.
Careful.
Well, I'm not going to name anyone. This is, if you had that in any other asset class, you cannot do that. There is wisdom in treating property like an asset class and not as some untouchable thing. Because what it means as well, is you can't organise fire sales. You can't do that in shares. You can't pump a market. You can't do that in shares.
Oh,
well,
GameStop.
You could. Yeah. But that was a zeitgeist.
Yeah.
That was a bunch of dudes laughing the line and putting $30 in to pump it to like 100. It's a bit of a different. Actually, taking a step back from this idea of it's untouchable because it's a roof over their heads. You can't treat it like an equity. Maybe you should.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to
and I rest my case.
Yeah, there's a lot to
because I know I was taking steps in a specific direction, but there is wisdom there is wisdom in regulating it like any other equity.
So here's my line of thought, Liam, and this is something I've been developing for a couple of years, and that is the way in which the buyer's agent industry has grown and accelerated over the last 2 to 4 years isn't sustainable. And I've been quite open with my thoughts around that. And we've seen a huge acceleration in the number of buyer's agents, and we've seen a huge acceleration in how they choose to present themselves to markets. And we've seen certain developments in how they think they should be framing their utility for investors, and you see things happening like we've seen. You just speaking about there, like pumping up regional markets and all this sort of stuff. So something has had to happen, right? And it has happened, and we're seeing it play out in motion now. So I'm not saying implosion of the BA sector is probably a little bit extreme. We're nowhere there, but you're going to see a very different BA sector moving forward, and I think it's going to revert back to what it was and what it should be, and that is a smaller cohort of professional operators who provide a certain service and capability to Australian property investors. It's not the big, I can't ever see a world where you're going to have massive buyers agents business. I think there's always going to be small and focused and professional operators who provide a bespoke service. Most people don't need or don't use a buyer's agent. I use a buyer's agent, and they add a lot of value to me for a whole bunch of reasons, which I've spoken about in the past. So what you're seeing now as a result of these changes to potential changes to taxation, particularly negative gearing, is there's not going to be the demand that was there. And I think a lot of the fear and greed in the property management the property investment space is going to be eroded. So I'm already hearing a lot of buyers agents is getting a huge amount of slowdown in demand, and I'm also hearing to a further degree that a lot of clients who had engaged buyers agents to find properties for them are asking for their money back because they're not going to be proceeding. And I think a lot of buyers agents are already starting to hurt. And if you're a strong, focused, professional outfit and you're not too big, I think you're going to be in a very good position moving forward. And I can think of a number of different operators in that regards. But some of the larger businesses that were being built off the back of quite overt marketing and social media influence and all this sort of stuff, you're going to see them scaling back quite rapidly. And if I reckon that already, if they're not losing a lot of timber, they're going to have to, right? Like, shedding. So I think there's going to be a lot of buyers agents in the market looking for jobs or property strategists, whatever we call them. Now, that's a lot of that is the result of the government's proposed changes. But I think this is going to be the rationalisation of the property, the buyers agent space that we had to have, to channel this idea around the recession we had to have. This industry has needed this to happen, and it's a number of different points coming together right now, which is going to drive changes to property taxes, higher interest rates, all this sort of stuff, right? So one of the headline scalps, which will probably in years' time will be in many ways the signal for this change, was the collapse of Dashdot, which was a large buyers agency, and I know you and your team have done some great work in relation to this. And the buyers agent industry is still very young and green, and I would like to actually understand how capable a lot of the people are in and around the buyer's agent space. I think a lot of them are right place, right time. They might not have the sophistication to run large businesses. They might not have the sophistication to do a lot of the work that's required. And as legislation, I would like to think that comes downstream. I think you're going to get a real wash through for it. Now, this idea of the property's power shift. So, buyer's agents have emerged as being like the centre of the investor's journey. That's how it's been presented, and there's been a lot of podcasts around it. There's thousands of property podcasts now, which are all done by buyers agents who all have a different system or a scheme or something or other, right? That makes them unique. I think the centre of the property investor's journey is the property manager. And I think you're going to see a real awakening now of smart property management businesses that are going to go a long way to repositioning themselves and filling a void where they will sit at the centre of the property investor's experience. And the reason why is that they are the one concurrent universal thing that most property investors are going to have a long-term relationship with. You know, you use a buyer's agent, you might use them a couple of times, and that's it. You're not buying any more property. That relationship's gone, right? You don't need them anymore. Same applies to your broker, or a lender. Once you get a loan, look, you should be dialing with your broker to make sure your loan is competitive. But the effectiveness of your property investment is going to be driven by the property manager. And the property manager is going to be helping what will be a big focus for a lot of people moving forward, yield, helping investors maximize their investment for the long term. So this is just a developing idea. So it's going to be repositioning of the centre of influence inside of property investment advice in Australia, and that's going to be the property manager. So I'm just going to park that but leave it, and we're going to let that brew over overcoming issues. But I want to pick up the Dashdot stuff in a moment. We've got another question, Jacob.
So our number one viewer, Zima, has asked, said, a lot of issues with buyers agents is 80% of them talking about the same markets. Tell me what advantage I'm getting using one.
You're buying into that market. I think you'll get capital gains. Well, that's not financial advice. On balance of probabilities, if you've got thousands of people buying at the same market, you're probably going to. It's just how much of the home is built on stone versus sand.
Built upon the rock. You're probably not getting any advantage. Other than if you're time poor and you don't want to do the work and to pay a buyer's agent fee to do all the heavy lifting to negotiate and transact, fine, there's certainly value there, but it's nothing you can't do yourself. What a buyer's agent would tell you is that they will find you better stock in those areas because they have the relationships with the real estate agent. It'll be off market. We've got you an off market one. That's how it's going to be framed. But if you're buying, it's really basic stuff. If you're buying in a market which has already seen a big run, which is going to be driven by buyers agents, there's going to be a different market you probably should be looking at. That's not providing any advice or whatsoever. But this is why you got to be careful. These really condensed markets which have huge amounts of buyer's agent activity. Now, what I'm hearing, let's get back to Dashdot because this is connected in with this. Oh, sorry, let's go.
So Sean is saying, how much responsibility rests with the consumer? They should be doing due diligence on a BA first.
Yes, all of it. Yeah, absolutely. You choose the profession you want to work with. You can't just palm off saying, I made a wrong decision. You got to do your due diligence, and there's a number of different ways you can do it. Know the buyer's agent. What's their skills? What's their own portfolio like? Who are you actually dealing with? Are you dealing with the buyer's agent or are you dealing with some second or third tier salesperson who's just there to sell your property? Do your due diligence, and I've spoken at length on that. And you can go to Smart Property Investment, which you lead, and you'll get all that sort of stuff on it. But back to this point around buyer's agents. So I hear sometimes, and I know for a fact because I speak to a lot of buyer's agents where, and I'll talk specifically around Dashdot because this is to set up a discussion I want to have, that one particular buyer's agent I know who was buying in markets where Dashdot were also operating was getting trumped by them on contracts time and time again.
Overbidding.
Yeah. And I heard in one case that, and this is hearsay, this is just hearsay. I'm just a conduit of information here, that they paid, I can't remember exactly the number, $60,000 or $70,000 more than what this other buyer's agent's top price was. This is what I hear. Yeah. And there's a number of reasons why, and whether it's Dashdot or anyone else, that I often hear buyer's agents paying overs because what that does, it resets valuations in those areas.
Yep.
So someone goes, I've got a comparable sale for something like for like at this much. Therefore, everyone else's property might be that much, right? So artificially changing
Yeah.
the price point of property in particular areas, right?
Yeah.
So I just hear these things happen. You know, I don't have any personal first-hand evidence of that, but you know,
That's where your own DD comes
It's a bit
into it,
murky.
right? You need to-
You just got to go to realestate.com and look at what else is being sold.
Mate, spend if you're going to be dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars on it, stamp plus BA
All that,
fees and
yeah.
blah blah blah. You know, you're not starting with a small pocket. Pay your $200 for RP data or something.
Yeah. Let's do it. Do the work. Just do the work. You've got to be responsible and accountable for it. So let's talk about Dashdot.
Yeah.
And it's connected with this. So you guys have done a great job on, and I know you're sort of working through it and there's lots of stories coming out. I think you were the first to get the liquidators report and pull it all apart. And I read your story. I thought it was excellent. But it got me thinking about it, and I was fortunate enough to have a pick through the liquidators report that you guys provided me, and something wasn't right for me. Mm-hmm. And bear with me as I try and sort of explore this. You know, I'm just exploring this as an idea or a theory. And I've spoken to some buyers agents and accountants around this as well. So it goes like this. They owe 16 million bucks to creditors, right?
Yeah.
Thereabouts. And I think...
well, I've got. I lost that. Let me get it up.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to remember, like, on the fly what it was, but I think about 1.5 million bucks to like a debt venture fund type mob who, rather than sort of
So
Mighty Partners, was it Mighty Partners? Was it? Yeah,
16 mil.
Yeah, 16 mil.
16.5 in liabilities. Known liabilities.
So 1.5 million bucks of debt to this Mighty Partners, or whatever.
So we've got 1.1 mil employee entitlements.
Yep. So that would be super, and I would imagine pay-as-you-go tax withholding that needs to go to the government, stuff like that.
915 to the tax office.
So I imagine that would be probably GST they've got to pay.
Yeah.
Because they obviously we're making a profit.
413 owed to American Express. That one's interesting to me. Is it just credit card debt?
It'll just be a credit card.
Interest.
Amex give you facilities, and it's just an Amex card.
Yeah. 134 to Meta.
Yeah, that's advertising.
Facebook advertising,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
1.5 million to Mighty Partners.
Yeah, that's a debt venture fund. So they, rather than bringing in a partner, they
Venture
take
debt.
equity, they give it.
Yep.
It's venture debt.
Yep.
Yeah, so I imagine they'd be secured.
A further 1.4 million is listed as owing to G Squared, the offshore holding company.
Yeah, that no one knows who owns.
While 17 customers are listed as being owed 41,000 in client referral fees.
Yeah.
The report also reveals Dashdot's directors listed a related entity, Global PropTech Operations, as owing the company more than $3 million.
But that doesn't sit as a creditor report. They're saying it's questionable whether or not that debt is due. So that's in addition to the 16.
I can't comment. Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
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 And how much is owed? The big rump of that 16 then is
To creditors.
I know, but what is
to customers,
what do they call it?
yeah.
Prepayments and what's it actually say on the thing? Prepayments
10.5 mil
Of-
to prepayments and prepaid services and refunds.
Okay, this is what I want to pull apart: prepaid services
Ampersand refunds. 10.5 mil.
and refunds. All right. So what I want to see, and this is important, and I'm just exploring this as a theory at the moment. Something smells to me. Something smells. And how many of them fall into that bucket?
695.
All right, 695. All right, I'm going to call that 700 for simplicity, right?
So I'll pull up the old calculator.
Yeah. So what's that tell us on average each person is owed?
So I'm gonna actually no, I'll be precise.
Yeah.
1 0
Was it probably
594079 divided by 6.5. Enter 15.2.
15.2K
Yep.
per person, right? All right. So this is my thought. And if anyone knows anything about this, come and please have a chat with us. And even if you worked in Dashdot and you want to have a chat with Liam and his team, anonymously, just because I would like to see on the creditors report those two things separated: prepaid services
And
refunds. They're two very, very different things.
Yes. Yep.
So prepaid services is I've paid a deposit or whatever for you to do a service for me in the future, which won't be fulfilled. That's one thing. Versus I've paid you some money for services. Those services have been fulfilled, but you may need to pay me back that money because of some reason.
Quality.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, and this is why it doesn't work for me, I haven't heard anything in the market of anyone who wants their money back from that wants their money back from Dashdot because of a service that hasn't been fulfilled to their satisfaction, right? Point number one. Point number two, there is no way that 695 creditors are all sitting there waiting for services to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And buyers agents that I've spoken to, big buyers agents I've spoken to, saying, at their peak, they had 120 customers on their books who had engaged them that they still need to fulfill the client brief on.
So this would put you in, not only that would make you, if you've got 695 people on the books waiting, that would put you in not even the top 1%, you would be the market leader.
Well, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they've said how many properties they've done.
You'd be at a magnitude that just dwarfs everyone.
I would say if that was the case, that would be at least probably 2 years of
unfulfilled
services into the future, right? So let's just carve it out and let's use like for like. Let's say 100, and I'm just speculating here, right? So let's say 100. Let's say 195 of them. Let's say extreme end are people who they've taken deposits from. They need to do services for. That leaves 500 people expecting a refund, a contingent refund. But that 500 people of the creditors of 10.5 whatever million bucks owed to these people is half of the money owed to creditors. So half of the money owed to creditors, and I'm just speculating here, which I'm allowed to do. I'm just musing about this. Are contingent refunds that they haven't been asked for yet, from what I understand. So they're just assuming 500 people are going to come to them at a point in time in the future and ask for their money back, and they don't have the money, and that sort of represents half of the creditors' numbers. Now, a company that's been doing what they're doing and has been generating the revenues that they've been doing, you would argue, should be able to clear the ATO debt. Don't want to put them in liquidate. The ATO will happily do a payment plan, right?
Yeah.
So let's put that aside. Amex are going to want their money, $400 or they're just going to charge $400,000. They're going to charge interest on it. The employee entitlements are contingent to the fact that it's going in liquidation. So if it's an ongoing concern, that's not needing to get paid right now. Some referral fees, okay, great, and was a couple $100,000 to Meta. Like a business that size, it feels as though they should be able to trade out of this.
Yeah.
However, and again, I'm speculating. They're saying half of the money owed to creditors are contingent refunds, and I don't know if anyone's sitting there waiting for a refund from Dashdot. So this is what doesn't smell right to me. It doesn't smell right. I'm going, they should be able. Why can't they trade out of this? Or why are they expecting 500 people to come and ask for a refund? And that is the question.
Yeah.
Why? Why do they think 500 people are going to come ask for a refund? And maybe I'm completely wrong on these numbers, by the way. So that's a question I have.
Well, we'll just I mean, your maths checks out. Like even at that 200 end of up to 200 for prepaid services puts Dashdot at a mammoth. Like in the industry, like you are the top performer by a mile.
200.
And you'd almost think, and this is a completely unethical thing to do, what I'm about to suggest, but it kind of makes you think because, you've heard, you spoke before about the examples of BAs going out there and setting new floors for markets and bidding up a little bit, right? Yeah. You would expect that if you just had all these people on your books that you needed to quickly move off, that you would this is a bad thing, but you'd expect you drop DD to move them on, or drop your due diligence
Quality, and this is the biggest issue with BAs.
on.
Yeah,
And it is the biggest issue with BAs that they will some operators out there will reconsider quality to just get people in and out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, surely that's almost the easiest thing. If you look at, there's no shortage of resources and data online. There's no shortage of prop techs out there that say, given all of the potential independent variables that you might have in a regression analysis, i.e. new supply coming on board and rental yield, and there are a dime a dozen. There are so many out there that you'd pick, oh, okay, that looks like a quote-unquote hot spot. I know we're trying to move away from that term because, there's a little bit more that goes into it than a hot spot. Yeah. But there you go, there's a hot spot. There's something that's got its bones and is at a reasonable market value. Let's go in and negotiate. You'd think that I don't know, like I would have assumed as a business you'd move them off the books. So
and therein lies the inherent issue with the buyer's agent space.
Yeah.
In that you can't have that scale. Like I've got 200 people who have said, I want to use your service. And again, we're just throwing these numbers around. Let's just assume 200 will be at the extreme end. I've got 200 people I still need to provide a service for who have either part paid or fully paid a deposit, right? You go, what's the natural thing to do? I'll try and get a service fulfilled as quickly and as cheaply as possible.
Yes.
Which will degrade the value of what a buyer's agent does.
Yes.
So this is why you can't have this massive industry or massive companies in an industry doing this, because those quality properties don't necessarily exist. And or if your shtick is that you find off-market properties because that's what represents value, there's just not that many out there. No. So and I don't know. This is speculation. So, but I need to know. Someone smarter than me that can work this out. But it just sounds as though if you remove all of that stuff, if you just move 500 potential refunds, why can't they trade out of this?
Yeah.
Why can't they? I'm sure they could do deals. They could do deals.
Yeah.
With each of those other creditors, will do deals.
Yeah.
They could go into and normally in an administration or liquidation process, you get a deed of company arrangement, which allows you just you do deals with everyone and sort it out, and you come back out and you keep trading, right? You want to keep trading.
Yeah.
To
also have realisable assets of $70,000. But if all these people paid up front, like they're just. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe a liquidator can come and tell me and educate me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you actually liquidate a company on the assumption that you may need to provide refunds that never may be asked for?
Well, your liabilities would dwarf your equity. So I guess.
I know, but who actually determines who actually determines whether or not those refunds are actual genuine creditors and that money is, it's due. Unless Dashdot knows something in the background that they're about to get a huge amount of people to come and ask for their money back.
Yeah.
Based on, again, one of the biggest issues in the buyer's agent space, buyer's agents making guarantees on performance of properties. And maybe this is what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just waiting for everyone to come and say, you told us X and now it's Y and we want our money back.
But that's the challenge with property investing nowadays, and I know you and I have spoken about it at length, but it's this expectation that you're going to get some quick sugar rush over 2 years and be a millionaire. You've got to recalibrate your expectations. You've got to go back to the basics sometimes. On that note, Phil, I noted that Dashdot referred their creditors to nearly 50 buyers agents. And
I saw that story.
We covered that.
Today was it?
Yeah, quite recently. Mate, it's insane. So according to the email that went out, Dashdot founder came out saying, where was it? To explore this pathway on your behalf, we need you to, and there was several bullet points there, but to explore this pathway, i.e. talking to these other buyers agents, we need you to bullet point, acknowledge that to the extent you actually receive services from a participating provider that fulfill the services Dashdot was obligated to provide to you, Dashdot's obligation to provide those services is satisfied to that extent. So you
So they're
can't.
just passing it to someone else.
Good, done.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and it ties into exactly what you and I have been talking about for weeks, which is the quality of property advice and the property advice sector. So we've got buyer's agents who were recommended who hold full-time jobs, not in buyer's agency. You've said it 1,000 times, Phil. You're going to go to a part-time surgeon? No. Are you going to go to a part-timer to park your years and years and years of savings and potentially the financial freedom of your family? Probably not. But some people might. They might be good. Maybe they're really good investors and they're looking to move across. But so some buyers agents are still full-time working in other areas. Some are recent career switches from retail, tech and healthcare and teaching, who, according to LinkedIn, have little to no prior experience in property. And several of the agencies aren't even registered for GST, which means their turnover isn't even $75,000. So you've got 2, 3, maybe 4 clients in a year under that. We're not talking about big trustworthy operators as well being recommended, people that have really cut their teeth. Some of these businesses have been established for just 3 months.
I still see stuff coming to my social media feed telling me that being a buyer's agent is a great side hustle.
Yes, side hustle.
It's a great side hustle. Yeah, you can have your job and on the side do this and get a commission.
Yeah.
Like it's I think this is like this idea of properties power shift, BAs out and PMs in.
Yeah.
Like that's the sort of stuff. This is not a side hustle.
Yeah.
I
mean, PMs, if you're talking about becoming area experts, right, you're not going to get a better area expert than the property manager that's got 100 properties under management.
Yep.
You would intrinsically, and we know one of our mutual friends, Alex Whitlock, has been on the XPI podcast with myself a few times, talking about some of the really good deals he's done off the back of property managers being like, hey, this place went up, it's been listed. I think it's actually perfect for you. It's exactly what you're looking for. Yeah. Refer to cross, and
well, he's actually saying to his PMs, where he's got properties, saying, hey, this is my brief. What do you got on your books?
Yes, yeah.
Is there anyone that you'll currently have as a client looking to? And he's getting some good deals.
Yeah.
Like, there is something in this, and this is this power shift.
And especially, with the borderless BAs, right?
Mm.
And we've obviously moved into borderless investing, but you're going to have, and not to knock it, a lot of them are very good. A lot of them are very good, but you can't necessarily have a borderless buyer's agent who can necessarily compete with market knowledge on that local PM that's got 100 pump.
Well, you speak to a lot of PMs, and because they're on the front line of connecting with investors, and and where you'll get the greatest stability and connected relationship with, where an investor will come, and often BAs will refer you to a property manager, and you can accept that referral or not. I'd actually shop around every single time and see what you got, but where property managers go. Like an investor will arrive and go, I've bought this property. The buyer's agent told me this, that, and the other, and it should rent for $600 a week. And the PM will be, the person that's got to deliver the news, going, that's not number one. You've bought in an area where there's not a lot of appetite for rental stock.
Yeah.
And number two, rents aren't at $600; they're at $525.
Yeah.
No. But the buyer's agent told me it was $600. Well, your numbers are wrong. Well, you don't know what you're doing. I'll go somewhere else. Sure, no worries, So they're on the front line with investors actually giving them. It happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
Saying that's not accurate, that's not right. And when you're buying, if you're buying in a particular area, irrespective where it is, call up. I did it most recently when I bought something. I called up the local property manager I was going to use, and I said, this is the address, this is the place, what's the rent? They actually told me it was probably $20 more than what the buyer's agent was telling me. And I went, okay, I'm satisfied.
Yes.
Just you got to do the work, got to do the due diligence. Call up a couple of them, just go, hey, I'm about to buy this. I'm in cooling off period right now. Looking for someone to manage it. Can you give me a rental appraisal on it?
Yeah.
And then go, okay, so when I buy this and I take this to you, you'll be able to find me someone at that rate. Yes, I will be able to do that. Yeah, this is just the checks and balances you need to do. That's why there's probably a power shift, BAs will still play a very important role in this space. I'm not talking that down whatsoever, but I think there's going to be a calibration that the property manager will be the custodian the custodian, and property manager's a loose term, right? And we should go into this, and it's probably outside of today's scope, but property managers is like a catch-all of probably 3 or 4, potentially 5 different jobs in and around property management. You have a leasing manager, you have a BDM who normally goes and finds people to do property management for. Then you have a leasing manager who does the leasing bit. They'll get it up and get it out and get it listed and get someone in there. Then you'll actually have the property manager who will be doing the property management bit with you. Then you have the principal who's sort of driving the culture and connectivity of how that agency advances. So there's lots of different aspects to the property management space. Everyone loosely just calls it property manager. So it is a cohort of connected professionals who are there to, inverted commas, manage your asset. And true asset management for property investors moving forward is only going to become more and more relevant as the rules around property taxes change and people are going to start chasing yields, and then also thinking about how you go about manufacturing equity inside of your property through renovations and repositioning them, all this sort of stuff, right? Your property manager is the person that's going to help you with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking. But Dashdot, I want to sort of, I'm really enjoying the commentary that you guys are running on it.
We need to dig deeper.
I've got to know. Can someone?
Yeah.
I'd like to see a carve out. That's my request is a carve out of prepayments versus refunds. And I think, and I've got to question it, why has the liquidator bundled it up together? I don't understand, because they're two very, very different sets of creditors. So if anyone knows that information, I'm sure you'd like to know about it.
I'd love to know.
Do you reckon it's fair? Is it fair?
I think it's very fair.
Just numbers, mathematics don't work for me.
No, I think it's very fair. Yeah. I mean, surely they come in at, I don't know, are they on the same rung of creditor? Like people claiming at different times?
I don't know who's claiming for the refunds.
Yeah.
Who's actually claiming? Like, is actually anyone there saying, like, are these refunds
is there a
actually
line of people?
due?
Yeah.
Is there?
I don't know. I'd love to know. Yeah, reach out. Liam.Garman.
Yeah.
Garman. Momentummedia.com.au. Yeah.
Liam.Garman. Garmin.
Garman.
Garman. All right, we're going to do a reaction video. Favorite time of the day. I'm going to put my headphones on. I've just been told by Jacob, our producer, Liam, that you have yours on.
I do. I'm ready to go.
All right. What do you got?
Can someone tell me if this is legal? I put an offer on a house and 5 other people put offers in, and he was like, they were all around the same price. So I'm going to put it on an online platform and you can all bid and see each other's bids, and basically the winner of the auction is the highest bidder because you've all got similar conditions in your contracts. I'm like, cool. He's like, auction's going to go from 12:30 today till 5:30. I was like, cool. I won that auction. And then he calls me an hour later and says that the owner of the house has decided that he wants to do more open homes, and that auction meant absolutely nothing. This is in Queensland. Is that, can people do that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's not really an auction. It's just a gimmick. That's funny.
There's platforms that do this stuff.
Yeah, well, a
lot of people use it. And look, it's.
Yeah. I mean, if it was an online auction, well, that's one thing. I'm getting the feel it was from like an Excel spreadsheet or something. That's kind of the vibe I got.
It's just whether or not you're actually buying in auction conditions using one of those platforms. Two very different things. And selling a property in auction conditions in person at a place, and everyone knows that they're operating auction conditions well set out around that. That's different to doing it as a online platform. And this is one of the reasons why real estate agents, and I feel for this lady, the disappointment, right? And
I'm going to guess it's not auction conditions because she said it was like 12 to 5 or something. So it's like you log in at your leisure and you bid.
So, and this is why real estate agents often, their trust levels are down there with you journalists, that obviously the real estate agent, I'm speculating here, was just trying to actually understand where the market was.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So he's got a price now.
Yeah.
And he'll be calling up people saying, hey, we've got a firm price at this. It's yours for $10,000 more or whatever.
I suppose that, the challenge is if you had I don't know, half a dozen people that logged in, then you've lost your 6 most motivated buyers.
Well, it's just whether or not the legalities around it, and I don't know whether he just calls up everyone going, look, you've missed out, but do another 20, you're in. It's just a tool, right? Yeah.
That's funny, though.
I can imagine she would be
cheeky.
annoyed.
It's definitely cheeky.
I need to understand if anyone actually, I probably need to, maybe we could look into a little bit more. I don't know the legalities around those bidding platforms. I don't like, these sort of blind auctions.
I've done online auctions before, but they were like, you're there, you're remote.
Yeah, that's different to doing it through a platform, right?
No, there was like a platform which you log into and stuff, but it was like 15, 20 minutes.
Were they saying that they were going to sell it that day and it was under auction conditions? Like
It was just an auction which you could log into. Keep in mind, it was during COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it was interstate. So I don't know whether they just had a laptop there and they were doing it or whatever. Fairly sure it was during the day, and then you logged in and you bid.
Yeah.
But it was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we got our bid. So
The comment section of that video mentioned that if there was no reserve price at all,
yeah.
then it's not an auction, doesn't count, etc.
Yeah, she didn't mention the reserve price.
So it's just a tool.
It's just a tool.
Yeah, it's just a tool. So are you actually buying under auction conditions?
Yeah.
Or this is a sales process?
Have you ever heard of an online auction going for 5 hours?
No.
Yeah, I feel like it's not auction conditions.
Yeah, it's just probably not bound by.
It's funny. That's cheeky. But you know what? Agents that do that, it's unwise. Now, I wasn't there. Maybe there was, if I'm grossly going to offend that individual, do reach out. But if you're there potentially upsetting your 6 most motivated buyers that have signed up and gone online and taken time out of their day to be there and do it, you do run the risk of upsetting a decent chunk of your market.
Yeah, well,
you're not going to get the benefits for the other vendors as well, because once they see Joe Blogs on the listing sign, they're probably not going to want to go to the other vendors in the area as well.
So you're going to start seeing a lot more of this sort of stuff as real estate transactions start to temper.
Yeah.
And this is when you're going to see all that is great about real estate agents, and potentially all that is the worst about real estate agents. When agents make their livelihood through transactions, and whether the market's up or down in prices, it's largely irrelevant for them. All they need is volume.
Yeah.
Their job is to try and sell as many things as possible. That's their job. So
Well,
if there's less things to sell, that's where
Yeah.
they get impacted.
Yeah.
Whether it's a downwards market, they're still making comms, right? If it's a downwards market, there's lots of transactions. That's great for real estate agents. If it's an upwards market and there's lots of transactions, that's great for real estate agents. When there's less transactions, that's bad for real estate agents. So often you start seeing some
ideally, only the good will survive.
Yeah. Only the good will survive, Only the good will survive. So, but, there are good live auction platforms.
Yeah.
But then you've got stuff like some of them are just negotiation type things, open negotiation being one of them, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, whether or not you're buying an auction or via private treaty through an open negotiation type of thing. So I'm happy to look into this more. But have we got any other? We can do any other reactions videos? We got no.
Bit limiting until people start reacting to the current property.
Oh yeah, God. Anyway. All right, good, Liam.
Good, eh? Nicely done.
Thank you. Property Buzz. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Share it.
Tell your friends. This is where you're going to get conversations that typically you're not going to get anywhere else. We're happy to sort of straddle what's going on in Canberra versus
people in Canberra that aren't going to be truthful. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be fun in the run up to the election on this thing. What's the best way to track you down again, mate?
Liam.Garman, Garman, at momentummedia.com.au.
What's the next dash dot story?
No comment, Phil. You got to watch out.
Oh, God.
We do have some industry reactions coming through. Ooh. Very damning.
Ooh.
But yes, watch this space.
Do you know what do note is that a whole bunch of people come out of the blocks a day or two after the announcement of the liquidation saying, leave them alone. They've tried their best, and this is all that's wrong about Australia. Blah blah blah. I haven't seen.
There were a few.
I haven't seen.
Not recently.
Not recently.
No.
Yeah.
I think there's an arm's length now between all the leave them alones.
Yeah. Who knows? I know. Will it emerge? Will there be a re-emergence of Dashtron under different guys? I'm sure there's lots of deals going on right now and lots of discussions.
Yeah.
Anyway, propertybuzz.com.au is where you can find us. Go and find Property Buzz on all these social channels, but also on the podcast channels, wherever you choose podcasts, whether it's on Apple or the Spotify or anything else. You can find us there. Like us, follow us, leave some reviews, 5 stars, please, if you like what we're doing. Enjoy. This is my favourite property podcast. I'm allowed to say that because I'm sort of got free run on this. I don't have any master I need to be concerned of. So I'll say as it is. So that's what Property Buzz is all about. You do. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good. Thanks, gang. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next Friday for more Property Buzz. Until then, bye-bye.